Kimberly Guilfoyle, along with Juan Williams, Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. This hour, President Trump will pitch his tax reform plan in Middletown, Pennsylvania, and we will bring the speech to you live when it happens. But first, to our top story. Developments in the Harvey Weinstein scandal have been fast and furious over the past 24 hours. We've learned that the movie mogul has boarded a flight to Europe for sex rehab as more victims have now come forward. The latest being Cara Delevingne, who claims she was a victim of his unwanted advances. And there's more. New reports about how Weinstein was perhaps protected. First up, NBC News. Here's Ronan Farrow on how the network refused to first report on the story.
Why did you end up reporting this story for The New Yorker and not for NBC News?
Look, you would have to ask NBC and NBC executives about the details of that story. I'm not going to comment on any news organization's story that they, did or didn't run. I will say that over many years, many news organizations have circled this story and faced a great deal of pressure in doing so.
And then there's Hollywood. Did they know about Weinstein's abuses and sit by and do nothing? This video from more than 4 years ago may prove so.
Oh, please. I'm not afraid of anyone in show business. I turned down intercourse with Harvey Weinstein on no less than 3 occasions out of 5.
Congratulations, you 5 ladies no longer have to pretend to be attracted to Harvey Weinstein.
All right, so Dana, do you think this is perhaps just the tip of the iceberg?
I don't know. I mean, listen, the laughter doesn't sound so funny, now. I'm looking back and I guess knowing what they knew at the time. I do have to say I'm really impressed with Ronan Farrow and how composed he was. I mean, that's not easy to do an interview. At least they did the interview on MSNBC at the parent company. The question being, did they actually stifle the story that Ronan had worked on for quite a while? And they said, no, take it somewhere else. And then he takes it to the New Yorker. I thought that was pretty remarkable, that perhaps it is a lot more widespread. And Chris Hayes, who is a host at MSNBC, said, you have to wonder if Hollywood is staring at something that would be as big as the scandal that the Catholic Church went through 15 years ago.
Yeah, and you had a good discussion about that today. The other thing, Dana, just to follow up really quickly, is Seth MacFarlane had said that he had heard about it or knew about it and was making the joke. So at least there's some suggestion that there was some knowledge and discussion about it, sort of maybe behind the scenes, et cetera, in Hollywood. So where do they go from here?
Well, it's interesting because, a lot of places have gone through this, and you look back and you think, well, was it, if you might have heard about it, but maybe you didn't have anything personal to do with it, so you think, well, that's none of my business. But a lot of these actresses that have come forward, and some of their former boyfriends or current boyfriends who have said that they did try to confront him directly, they didn't take it public, and partly that's because they're in a business together and they want to succeed. But I do wonder if at this point they're realizing that they have a much bigger problem on their hands, because they were laughing about it, excusing it, but you actually might have legal action that will take him for a long time. I think it's very curious, Kimberly. I'm curious what you think about this. Why did Harvey Weinstein have to go overseas? I mean, is there not an opportunity to go to one of these places in America? I've never looked into it, but
I did, and yes, it's very hard.
It's hard to go in America.
No,
thanks for that revealing personal anecdote.
We have to be clear here when we're praising Ronan Farrow for doing what? For bringing up NBC's role in this. So we have to do that with ourselves, correct? I mean, were we all shouting about FNC when that was going on? So I can see why people hide. They call this an open secret, which means it's not a secret.
Right.
That's what drives me crazy. And it is because there's a certain generation of men, perhaps, that see in places of power as things as transactional. People have a word for this. It's such an open secret that it's called the casting couch. So it's not just about Weinstein. It's about everybody. They know that when a young girl is going into someone will always make a joke about the casting couch.
Well, this is kind of what Dana was talking about in terms of the Chris Hayes tweet, which was, okay, is this something that we're going to see? Obviously, that's been talked about, the casting couch that was sort of systemic in Hollywood. Will there be other people who are revealed,
but it's systemic,
who have engaged in the same practices?
It's not. It's old school. It's wherever there's high-powered executives, where there are directors, there are producers, there are politicians. You are going to see somebody violating this. A lot of people get into certain businesses precisely because of this. Some guy wants to get in the movies because he wants to get laid.
Okay.
What? I mean, I'm
Jesse,
just
you're
being
next.
honest.
To Greg's point, and in all industries, men continue to abuse their power, and it's starting to slow down as light's been exposed to this. Harvey looks like a serial sexual predator, and it was an open secret, and it's so cliche when you think about it, that a ugly, fat, old Hollywood producer dangles the dream of success in front of a young starlet on a casting couch. The stereotype is just so sick. But
they don't have to
industry
be
itself,
physically attractive or not. The point is it happens.
But either way, the cliche is true if you look at them. Now, if you look at the industry of Hollywood, there's so limited amount of roles that these women are pursuing. And there's only a few big production houses in Hollywood. So you have a few rich, powerful men like Weinstein who control and are the gatekeepers for very hotly contested roles. So you have women coming across from Europe, from Asia, from all over the country to compete and try to land their dream job. And he preys on their dreams and he exploits their dreams for sexual gratification. Now, it's not the victim's fault for not coming forward, but like you said, it was so open that everybody knew about it, and instead of doing something about it, they put their own self-preservation and their own success and their own access above doing the right thing. So Hollywood's so self-congratulatory and self-righteous. You see them at the award shows, patting themselves on the back. They decide that they're the arbiters of what's right, what's appropriate in this country. And they're quick to point the finger when any of their enemies cross the moral lines that they've designated. But the fact that this went on for so long and they did nothing completely undercuts their credibility when they champion the causes that they claim to want to champion.
Okay, just, let's touch upon the most important aspect of this, which is the victims. There's many reasons why people don't come forward. They don't feel that they have economic power or a voice that will be heard. Many of them want to make sure that they can try to get a chance in the industry, and it's, very uncomfortable. Some people said they didn't want to come forward out of not to embarrass his family or wife or children, that type of thing, or they feel just, humiliated and self-shame at that. I mean, I dealt with that a lot with sexual assault, victims, people who were raped, sex abuse crimes, where they don't want to come forward because of the stigma.
I think there's so much changing in the country with regard to the relationships between men and women, but in the workplace, exactly what you say is at play, Kimberly, because I think lots of women saw this as an opportunity to get ahead. So we know about the women who've come forward and said, Harvey Weinstein behaved inappropriately. What's not said oftentimes is the women who may have had some relationship and it might have advanced their career. I even read in the paper today, one woman had his initials tattooed on her because, he made her career. But now, all of a sudden, I think people feel like, you know what, Harvey Weinstein is, as Jesse said, a clear sexual predator. And, the question becomes not just Hollywood, but as we're seeing in the papers today, what about the politicians who were taking Harvey Weinstein's money, from the Clintons to the Obamas? Why were those people silent? And again, you come back to the idea that, you know what? He had power, he had money, and men like sex, and they want sex with younger women. And here he had the opportunity to act in a way that said, it's my prerogative. It comes with the power. On Wall Street, this is a problem. You read about people in Washington, congressmen having affairs and saying to the mistress, let's have an abortion, even though he says that he is, pro-life. And then you hear about things, like John F. Kennedy and all the women that were around that, or you hear about, to me, a lot of what's going on the college campuses where the colleges don't know how to deal when a young woman says that the guy behaved inappropriately.
But this is different in the sense that it is normalized. When you have a phrase called the casting couch and everybody assumes and jokes about it, that means it is something that has become acceptable to a point where, well, did he hit on you? Yeah, oh, it was disgusting. But I didn't tell anybody because everybody already knows that Harvey does that, so I didn't want to tell anybody. It grossed me out. But, everybody knows. They joke about it on award shows. So it became the hypocrisy that Jesse brings up is so true. This is an industry that lectures us on morality, on all kinds of morality, whether it's about sexuality or gender or climate change. But in this case, they are accepting something that is immoral because it is part of doing business.
But it's not just them now.
Yeah.
I think it's been them forever.
No, I agree.
I just think this is the way business was done among powerful men at a different time in a different generation. And at the moment, you see more women in the workforce, more women who are educated, and they have sufficient political leverage, Greg, to finally call people out. Now, the question to me is, so why didn't NBC approve Ronan Farrow's story? Why did the New Yorker approve it, you know? Or why didn't, as I understand it, several years ago, there was the argument the New York Times had some of this. They say they didn't, withhold the story, but boy, it sure looks terrible.
Well, NBC then, pushed back just to say their side of it. They say, well, this is a different story than what was presented to us. So that's an interesting factual analysis to see what did he proffer and put forward and who, in fact, made the call to not, take that story and go with it to the point that it was buried and kept like this, but there was also intimidation that he did to people when they tried to cross him or that they weren't, he wasn't he felt that they were trying to do something against him. Like Ronan said, he had that problem with him personally. But I just want to touch on something too, because when you think about Roman Polanski, and now you see he's going to sex rehab in Europe. And as a prosecutor, I'm just telling you, the first thing I'm thinking of, wow, this guy just skipped town. Where did he go in Europe? Is he going to be able to be brought back? Because I even contacted the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office where I used to work, and in terms of the sexual assault unit, and you're looking at, yes, misdemeanor battery even is 3 years, felony if there's rape and the victim's adult at a time, there's a 6-year statute of limitations, or aggravated rape, forcible rape of more than 2 victims, that sentence can be 15 to life. We don't know all the facts here of what transpired, but it certainly warrants a full and thorough criminal investigation for assaultive sexual conduct and what has been so far alleged in terms of the media. And so if you're the LADA's office or whether stuff took place in New York, they have to be checking into that.
Could they have prevented him from leaving the country?
Well, if they had an open case and were aware and were able to go, or if they were convening a grand jury or something of that nature, you can try to prevent, somebody from leaving and putting out a warrant, but they might not have been there at this point. But when you see an investigation like this, I mean, I've had cases where a case was in front of a grand jury and an indictment was just about to be returned in the dog mauling case, and my 2 defendants fled, and there was a high-speed chase and the whole deal. So, you've got to be on top of this stuff. But I think because this just broke, now they're getting into, on top of the investigation. And that's why this is a very important and compelling news story from so many angles.
My guess is sex rehab is probably going to be a chateau in France, and you're not going to see it for a while.
And also, can I say, I never knew what the phrase casting couch meant until this show.
Are you kidding?
Come on.
No, I know. I didn't know what it meant. I had no idea.
I learned that was in sitcoms. They were talking.
Dana wasn't allowed to watch those sitcoms.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
Thank you for the education.
Greg, what an educator. Coming up, 5 days after the Weinstein scandal broke, the Obamas and Hillary Clinton are finally saying something. What took them so long? Well, that's next. Also, President Trump will be giving a speech on tax reform in Pennsylvania. We're going to bring it to you live later this hour. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Broke, but it was only yesterday that Hillary Clinton and President Obama denounced their creepy Hollywood friend. Why? Jeffrey Tobin has this to say.
This was widely known, Harvey Weinstein's really inappropriate behavior with women. The real question is, why were the Clintons and the Obamas so close to him during the campaigns when they were important? I think this is a real blot on the records of both the Obama and the Clinton families, that they were so blind to this, willfully blind, for so long.
And Kellyanne Conway was quick to label the former First Lady when it comes to being a champion of women's rights.
I felt like a woman who ran to be commander-in-chief and president of the United States, the first one ever, who talks about women's empowerment, took an awfully long time to give support to those women who were coming forward, and has still, as far as we know, Bill, kept the money. She needs to not be a hypocrite about women's empowerment and what it means to be pro-woman. What has she done privately in her private life? She's on a book tour talking about herself and a campaign she lost. She's not talking about women's empowerment. She's not trying to help victims of sexual assault.
So, very interesting point from Kellyanne, but I want to talk about Jeffrey Toobin's point first. He said it was willful blindness by the Clintons and the Obamas because all they cared about were the donations.
Well, as if it was an open secret, then I guess, yes, this is true. And they are hypocrites. I like Holman Jenkins in the Wall Street Journal wrote today that hypocrisy is the price we pay for civilization. But hopefully you take a moment then to examine your own sanctimony and before you do it again. I do wonder about the going forward. One of the ways to deal with this is actually just a change in leadership at some of these companies. And so if you look at somebody like Reese Witherspoon, who in her career after success has developed a production company. She did Big Little Lies, which was a big hit last year. She's optioned 4 more books in order to turn them into movies or television series. They're all written by women. She's casting more women. And maybe that is actually a way to stop the sexual extortion in Hollywood.
That's a great phrase, extortion, because that's what it is. Kimberly, let's talk about what Kellyanne said. The hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton. She waited days before coming out. Now, as a champion of women's rights, shouldn't she have been one of the first leaders to come out and condemn Harvey?
Well, it certainly would have been compelling had she done so, but I'm not in her personal space to know what she was privy to, what she knew, when she found it out. I know she's come out now, and obviously they're a very close relationship. No one disputes that fact. So I think it's important once you become aware of it to say something. But beyond that, people are talking about the campaign contributions, et cetera. But, I think that's very tough to, chase that down if money has been spent.
Right.
And a lot of it, and to try and figure out, okay, what is she supposed to personally give her money out of her pocket back to replace? It just becomes a little bit tricky from a forensic accounting standpoint to be, okay, well, this is where the Harvey money went, et cetera, et cetera.
Maybe she can donate it to the Clinton Foundation.
She didn't wait 2 seconds to comment on the Las Vegas massacre. She comments on she comments quickly on a lot of things. She wants to be out there in the public eye. She's out selling her book. She wants to be a part of the conversation, and this is certainly a part of the conversation. So I think the criticism of her waiting to comment is justified.
How much
she should have
damage
owned it.
do you think this is going to do to the Democratic Party, Juan? Because if this was a huge, famous Republican donor, this would be a very different story.
Well, I think Democrats then would be in the position to be talking down, condescending to Republicans about lack of moral authority and why aren't you speaking up? And we've seen that because Republicans have been affected, I should say. And not only in terms of modern media, but you know what? Donald Trump, the president, is a guy who has said just horrible, vulgar things. And he was running for president. And guess what? Republicans made excuses. Or said, oh, you know what? Oh, that's being overblown. Why was that tape released? And it was just politics. In this case, I think Kimberly's onto something when she says, if you're in the shoes of the Clintons or the Obamas, this guy is a major donor to the Democratic Party and to your cause. And so you're going to be slow to condemn someone who has been supportive of your efforts.
Right, naturally. And Juan brings up an interesting point. So NBC had no problem leaking the Access Hollywood tape to the Washington Post, but according to Ronan Farrow, maybe have sat on this explosive story about Weinstein. Greg.
Yeah, it's interesting. The funny thing is, Trump is basically making the same, in that video, is making the exact observation that we are making, that if you're in a position of power, you can grab whatever. Anyway, I came up with a theory. I didn't finish it. I came up with this theory a long time ago. You can see it in my book, Bible of Unspeakable Truths. I call it the PPP, the Progressive Pig Pass. People accepted Bill Clinton because his heart was in the right place, even if his hands weren't.
Oh, my goodness.
And if you look at how Hugh Hefner was able to camouflage Playboy, which is objectifying women, it was pornography, as a feminist achievement. It was somehow it's empowering to women to submit to male horniness.
Yeah, free speech.
But it's actually we want you to have the same amount of sex as we do. And what you're basically saying is, we just want to have sex with you. So what you've done is you've taken, casual sex or what was considered something of value, you've now said, no, it's just like what we do, and that's empowering. It was a trick played by so-called male feminists, including people like Bill Clinton and Ted Kennedy and Hugh Hefner.
And also on the progressive pig pass piece, what did Harvey Weinstein first, when it first all came out,
Exactly.
what did he say that he would do? He'd say, please don't say anything bad about me, and I'm going to take a leave of absence and put all of my efforts into going against the NRA.
He went out with the progressive pig pass so quickly. He goes, I'm going to fight Trump and fight the NRA, so please excuse me for being a swine.
You know what was interesting to me, though, is he says at some point, oh, I grew up in the 60s.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 60s, and this was kind of culture, and this was just the way things were.
That's no excuse.
This guy, well, I mean, but you go back to John Kennedy, I don't think there's any question. He was a huge playboy. We didn't write about it
But was he engaging in consensual acts or acts of sexual assault and battery? I would say something really quick about the Obama family. I personally think that it's no coincidence that Malia was working there on an internship, and obviously they said his assistants and people were there. It was like open secret, privy to this, and then this comes out.
The timing is very unusual. Coming up, President Trump is in Pennsylvania to tout his tax reform plan. We'll preview his big speech coming up later in the hour when we return.
Fox News alert, President Trump is hitting the road again to pitch his tax reform plan, this time with a special focus on American truckers. The president will be speaking later this hour in Pennsylvania, and we will bring it to you live. He's expected to say his plan will give a big boost to the stock market and jobs. He tweeted this morning, quote, if Congress gives us the massive tax cuts and reform I am asking for, those numbers will grow by leaps and bounds. Hashtag MAGA. The president went on, it would be really nice if the fake news media would report the virtually unprecedented stock market growth since the election. Need tax cuts. Meaning there's a period there. Need tax cuts. No exclamation point because he might have just run out of characters, Kimberly, or else I think he would have had one. I think this is an interesting and good tactic to take the message narrowly to different groups of people. I do think he has one problem, and he was pointing to it this morning in his tweets, and that is he's taking credit for an economy that's doing really well. The unemployment rate down to 4.3%, stock market on a tear, like just record after record. People feeling pretty good about the economy, and yet when you want tax cuts, you basically are trying to say it's because we have a problem that we need to fix. He's trying to make that case, but it's not all that easy to do it.
No, it's not, because he's almost, suffering from the benefit of the good economy. And they're saying, well, wait a second, let's not mess with it. If this is going well, you don't tinker with it back in the tool shop. You say, let's let this go and run the path. However, what he needs to say and fashion a great message, which is this is going to give it the boost to go the rest of the way down the field. Like, this is what we need to continue this period of economic growth and prosperity, and to continue to stimulate the economy with more available tax dollars in the hands of Americans, hardworking Americans, so that they can spend and put it back into the, financial flow and back into the economy and into the free market to capitalize on it. So he's got to be able to do that. But I like what we've talked about previously on the show, and you've mentioned, which is, taking the message out to these different groups, these different communities, key core groups.
And there's Bob Casey's a senator from Pennsylvania. He's a Democrat in a red state up for re-election.
And they could use the help.
President Trump won Pennsylvania very handily, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Greg, there's two ways to do tax reform. There's the big picture way, which is it will be great for the economy, and let's do this because we believe what we saw Ronald Reagan do, that we'll be able to do this. Then there's the minutia, and you start talking about the real wages. What people want that, but all the expensing and all the pass-throughs and all that stuff, and it starts getting real messy.
There are two really key points from his plan that I think are important that need to be articulated. The media criticizes the repeal of the death tax as helping the rich, and that is absolutely absurd. You know what helps the rich? Not robbing them. This is the death tax is an immoral act. You are taking money that has already taxed from somebody. There are families that have saved this money for years who are now dead, and you are essentially digging into their grave and taking money from them. Whether you make $50,000 a year or $50 million a year, you know that it is immoral, it is wrong, it is absolutely wrong to do. And it's one of those things where, well, it doesn't affect me, So I don't really care about. Well, there's a lot of illnesses that don't affect me, but you care about it. Absolutely. So you have to care about this because it's immoral. The second part is the tax relief for small businesses, because in America, small businesses, that's our national pastime. It's not football, it's not baseball, it's opening small businesses because it entails risk. It's overcoming obstacles. It's resisting and championing against bureaucracy. So anything that helps small business people is something that we should be pushing because, I mean, that's the nature of America, is starting these businesses. So if he's got to talk about the small businesses and somehow be able to frame the death tax that it is not about helping the rich. It's actually a moral decision.
So I see so much hypocrisy. I just can't get over it because to me, what we're seeing here is that Donald Trump will stand there and he'll speak to a group of truckers and he'll say, oh, this is going to, in fact, create more business. It's going to put more dollars in your pocket. Answer, we don't know, and we don't think so. I mean, if right now, it's overwhelming that this would benefit the very rich in American society. What you call the death tax, I call an estate tax. And 90% of that benefit goes to the top 10%
it's
of
their
earners.
money.
No, but here's my point.
They already pay taxes on it, Juan.
Fine, you can already
stealing from them because they're rich.
because they're dead. And guess what? So you want
you're stealing from them because they're dead.
Hang on.
Thank
you want to cement income inequality and give the children of the very rich even more money.
It's their money.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
No, Ron wants to redistribute. He wants
No,
to
I don't want to
take it from them because they're dead.
I just said
wants to penalize
we don't need.
At least you're honest. At least you're honest.
We are not. I think that there was a decision made by the people who wrote the tax laws in this country that says we are a bootstrap country. You can earn your way up, and even the children
steal
of the rich.
from them.
It's not stealing.
Now, Jesse, one stronger point might have been this: that the Greg Sargent, the Washington Post, said that he asked somebody to run the math over at the Tax Policy Center, which I got a few problems with them, but Tax Policy Center basically said there are only 30 trucking companies that would actually be helped by this policy. So that it isn't as big as people are making it out to be.
I mean, you can show me any study to prove whatever. It doesn't matter because you're going to put people back to work and you're going to give them more of the money that they've earned. So you can show me any study to make any point you
How are you going to put people back to work, Jesse?
Well, I'll give you a number of reasons, Juan. When corporate taxes are reduced, companies have more money, and then they hire and they reinvest.
That's exactly wrong. It just
How is that wrong? Have you ever run a company?
Yes.
So
let me just tell you
more
something.
money, what do you do with it?
Let me just tell you something.
Invest it to grow the business,
you
and
give it
hire
back
more
to the
people.
shareholders. You put it more in the hands of the corporate executives and the shareholders. It does not necessarily mean better jobs.
We got to run because the president might be speaking soon. So Jesse, hold that thought.
I have so many better
Coming
points.
up, we're going to have a chance tomorrow. Eminem Unleashed. Thank you. Sorry, spewing an anti-Trump freestyle rap that is causing quite a stir. That's next.
Trump in a video from the BET Hip Hop Awards on Tuesday. Like Michael Moore on a tricycle, you could see it coming a mile away. This rap is about as dangerous as a Nerf dart. Of course, the media is hailing it as brave, calling the best lines from this predictable noise. I can't wait for Chris Cuomo's line-by-line analysis with Fareed Zakaria nodding thoughtfully in agreement. Me, I'm just happy Eminem's moved from threatening his mother or wife. No longer just a misogynist, he's a politically relevant misogynist. Good for him. I guess he learned something from Weinstein. Bottom line, Eminem's peer-approved rap makes Morning Joe sound edgy. Not a single thought surprises you. He breaks less ground than a broken shovel. No wonder the media loves it. He's Brian Stelter with hair.
Oh my God.
By the way, who cares? That's what I mean. This is what Eminem's supposed to do. You are a rap aficionado. You were known as
pull the tape.
Yeah, pull the tape.
You know what I thought was super edgy?
What?
Tried to rhyme the word orange.
Yeah, that's
There is no word that actually rhymes with orange, but he gave it the old college try.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true.
get. I don't listen to rap. I did watch this because
Peter can rap.
Peter can.
Yeah,
rap,
but we don't want to hear that.
It's British and it's.
It's more like poetry.
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's beautiful. Look, First Amendment, I'm for it. The reason I'm interested in it is because it is like you're having two different cultural conversations in America. Like, so on the NFL, you see that President Trump, I think, winning on that issue in the culture wars. And then you have this, and it's like there's these Americans are just talking past each other.
Which is what we do well.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It is, Juan, it is like two, Scott Adams calls it two movies going on at the same time.
Sure, but that's why this struck me as effective. I disagree with you. I think, in fact, he said he speaks to white suburban kids. And he said he's going to draw a line in the sand. If you're a Trump supporter, you're not with him. And I thought he put himself out there in a very interesting way in that cultural divide that you and Dana are discussing, because he was very clear. He thinks this guy is destructive. He thinks that he is not a good president leading us into World War III. I don't know how you can deliver, in terms of our culture and our music, a more powerful message at this moment coming from a white rapper to white suburban kids.
But it would have been interesting, Jesse, if it was clever, because when I listened to it was like, he calls him a racist. He says he makes mean jokes, and he has extravagant. It's like he was reciting
about male genitalia.
Yeah, but it was like he was rhyming from CNN. Like this was MSNBC with a beat.
Yeah. Eminem's better than that. He's a good artist, but that wasn't very good.
Right?
And I have a lot of respect for Eminem as a rapper.
I think he
not
respects you, too,
as a
Jesse.
political commentator. Yeah, I know. And you know what? Detroit, his hometown, is a cesspool. I mean, Democrats buried that city. So let's figure out what happened there.
Better
It's gotten a lot better after Trump
Republican
flipped that
governor.
state. Yeah, red. Also, the governor Snyder. There you go. But we'll take credit. Second of all, I love Eminem, and he can rap whatever he wants. I just disagree with his opinion. I just think he's irrelevant now. And when you bash Trump, you become relevant. I thought he was retired. I hadn't heard from him in a while.
Yeah, he's 44, which in rap years is 97. You didn't know that, did you, Kimberly?
No.
Usually they get into acting at this point.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't think Vanilla Ice was that bad. I liked him.
Yeah, and he's not the Vanilla Ice.
That dude's like,
that was a bad analogy.
He's more like the MC Hammer of rap.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Don't you dare disparage Eminem. He's a very talented rapper.
I like the interview he did on 60
We didn't
Minutes.
like this.
Insane Clown Posse, way better than Eminem.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
Send him email.
Yeah, this was sort of predictable and kind of just, I don't know, it was sort of sophomoric. And then, with the middle finger thing, I have no bid for this. I didn't like it. Yeah, bring back Vanilla.
But I think Juan's point about young audiences, it'll be interesting to see what they think. I think they probably liked it.
I don't think they care.
Oh, yeah,
Honestly,
that's why it went viral.
I think
it went viral big time.
By the way, Juan, everything goes viral.
No.
That's a producer phrase.
Even I go viral.
No, but I'm just telling
This
you.
went viral. Viral means 10 minutes.
No. This has gone on and on, and musicians love it. Musicians fight to have that kind of attention.
Wait, we're hearing from Donald Trump. Here we go. Let's go.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be back in Pennsylvania with the proud men and women of the American Trucking Associations. We love Pennsylvania, and we love our great truckers. I also want to thank all of our wonderful members of Congress who are here with us today. Should I read their names? Yes? Then I will. Representative Lou Barletta, great guy, running for governor. He's running for the Senate. He's running for this. Where's Lou? So I heard he was running for governor, but then I heard he was running for the Senate. He's going to win. You're going to win big. You're going to win big, Lou. Good luck. A friend of mine for a long time, Representative Mike Kelly. Thank you, Mike. Tom Marino, going to be the drug czar. He's going to do a great job. Tom Marino. Thank you, Tom. It'll be amazing. The drug czar. Patrick Meehan. Patrick. Thank you, Patrick. Scott Perry. Scott. And Lloyd Smucker. Lloyd, thank you. Thank you, Lloyd. I also want to thank a couple of very special people. They've been fantastic in what they've done. Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, who's here someplace. Dave. And Gary Cohen, Director of the National Economic Council. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. And Mike Turzai, the Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Thank you, Mike. I think that's enough, right? That's enough. We'll start losing the crowd, Mike. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to address some of the recent tragedies that have struck our incredible nation. In the darkest moments, the light of our people has shone through like seldom before. Their goodness, their courage, and their love. No destructive force on earth is more powerful than the strength and resilience of the American people. We are praying for all of the families affected by the horrific mass shooting that took place in Las Vegas. We grieve with you, and we will never leave your side. Our hearts are also with the victims of the wildfires in California's Napa and Sonoma valleys. And they are wild and dangerous fires. And we have FEMA out there right now, along with a lot of first responders, doing an incredible job with everybody else. And they really have done a very incredible, and it's a very dangerous job. My FEMA people are incredible. Incredible. We've issued a disaster declaration and are working closely with state government. The recovery effort is fully underway for those impacted by the recent catastrophic hurricanes. Through these difficult times, we have witnessed the unbreakable spirit of our nation. Together, we will restore, rebuild, and return stronger than ever before. That's what's happening. We are here today to discuss our vision for America's economic revival, which has already started. It started on November 8th. We want lower taxes, bigger paychecks, and more jobs for American truckers and for American workers. It's happening. Nothing gets done in America without the hardworking men and women of the trucking industry. Do we agree with that? Do we agree? Thank you so much. Job you do. When your trucks are moving, America is growing. You agree? That is why my administration has taken historic steps to remove the barriers that have slowed you down. America first means putting American truckers first. Since January of this year, we have slashed job-killing red tape all across our economy. We have stopped or eliminated more regulations in the last 8 months than any president has done during an entire term. It's not even close. That includes eliminating the regulations that drive up the cost of energy. We want low-cost fuel for our truckers and for our families all across this country. And we are just getting started, believe me, just getting started. I've ordered every agency across federal government to review and then remove the regulations that destroy your jobs, hamstring your companies, and undermine your ability to compete. My administration is also committed to passing a historic infrastructure package that will generate $1 trillion to rebuild America's crumbling infrastructure with a special focus on roadways and highways. It is time to take care of our country, to rebuild our communities, and to protect our great American workers. It's about time. And already we are seeing the incredible results. Results that, in many cases, the media hates to report. But I'll report them tonight for you. Unemployment is at a 16-year low. Wages are rising, and you know you haven't heard that in a long time. The stock market is soaring to record levels, boosting pensions and retirement accounts for hardworking Americans. Their values are going up every single day. And very proudly, just in the stock market alone, We have increased our economic worth by $5.2 trillion. That's right since Election Day. $5.2 trillion. Think about that. That's a quarter of the $20 trillion that we owe. So we've already, but listen to this, because we've doubled in the last 8 years of the previous administration, the debt doubled. So that in 8 years, our debt, literally hundreds of years of debt, doubled in 8 years to $20 trillion. But since the election on November 8th, I've increased the value of your U.S. assets by more than the $20 trillion that we currently owe. You haven't heard those numbers. GDP growth reached more than 3.1% last quarter, way ahead of schedule. We weren't supposed to hit that number for a long time. Not for a long time. And I will tell you, I think this quarter would have even been better, but we did get hit with some very, very powerful hurricanes. But it's still going to be very good. Manufacturing confidence is at an all-time high, which is great news for those who ship products to the marketplace. The confidence in our country is back like it hasn't been in many, many years. The fact is, America is finally back on the right track. But our country and our economy cannot take off like they should unless we transform America's outdated, complex, and extremely burdensome tax code. And that's why I'm here with you right now, tonight. Thank you. And we're going to fight, and we're going to get those Republicans and maybe a few of those Democrats to raise their hand, and you're going to have so much money to spend in this wonderful country and this great economy. That is why we've proposed tax cuts that are pro-growth, pro-jobs, pro-worker, pro-family, and pro-American. We need a tax system that is fair to working families and that encourages companies to stay in America, grow in America, spend in America, and hire in America. Throughout the year, my administration has worked closely with Congress to develop a framework for tax reform that will deliver exactly that. More jobs, higher pay, and lower taxes for middle-income families and for American businesses of all size. Our tax reform framework will achieve our 4 core principles. First, we will cut taxes for everyday, hardworking Americans. Under our framework, the first $12,000 for a single individual and the first $24,000 for a married couple will be tax-free, no tax at all. And remember, you'll do your tax on a single piece of paper. H&R Block will not like Donald Trump very much. That's one company, I will tell you. They will not like me at all, and that's okay. We are nearly doubling the amount of income that is based at the zero bracket. In other words, as the Democrats say, and do they say untruths? You look at what's happened, they're not telling you the truth because they pretend there isn't a zero rate. And there is, and it's expanding very substantially under my plan. They don't show the zero rate. So they go, 15% or 12% against 15. But it's not. It's 12% against 0. You take a look at the categories. So we're bringing it down, remember, from 8 brackets to 4. But they're forgetting to use the 0 bracket. which truly is deceptive. Do we agree with that? It's truly very deceptive. Under our framework, we make the zero bracket bigger and get rid of the 10% bracket, and we're reducing the 15% rate down to 12%. So that's a massive amount of money. So the rates are coming down to 0, 12%, 25%, and 35%. All big beneficiaries from what you have now. Big beneficiaries from what there is like you haven't seen before. Joining us today is Susie Schloman, a retiree who recently moved to Pennsylvania from Queens, New York. Well, I like both places. I like Pennsylvania. I grew up in Queens. Went to school in Pennsylvania. Like them both. Where's Susie? Where are you, Susie? Where's Susie? Hi, Susie. How are you doing? You're going to be happy with this, right? Because you know what I'm going to say. Thanks, Susie. And Susie says that high taxes are forcing seniors like her to make painful cuts and cutbacks during the golden years of their lives, best years of their lives. She hopes Congress will pass our framework so we can help more American seniors make ends meet on a fixed income. We must honor and respect the people whose decades of hard work helped to build our country and to make our country great. But we're going to make our country greater than it's ever been before. That's what's happening. Our framework also provides relief to those who care for an adult dependent or elderly loved one through a $500 tax credit. So important. And so many people have wanted it. And we will substantially increase the child tax credit to save working families even more money. The single most important investment our country can make is in our children. The strength of our nation is determined by the strength of our families. And we are committed to helping parents make starting and raising a family more affordable. Also, with us today is Laureen Cummings, a mother of 4 who owns a small staffing company that provides private nursing services and at-home care. Laureen, where is Laureen? Hello, Laureen. Laureen says that if Congress passes tax relief and reform, she will be able to create high-paying jobs for healthcare workers in the Scranton area. That's an area that we love, I will tell you that. Our framers will unlock the American dream for millions of our fellow citizens by eliminating tax breaks and special interest loopholes that primarily benefit the wealthy. Our framework ensures that the benefits of tax reform go to the middle class, not to the highest earners. It's a middle-class bill. That's what we're thinking of. That's what I want. I've had rich friends of mine come up to me and say, Donald, you're doing this tax plan. We don't want anything. We don't. Now, they gain when the economy gains. They gain when companies get better. They gain in lots of different ways. But they don't want that. So many people have come up to me and say, give it to the middle class. Give it to people that need it. Give it to people that want to spend it. You would be surprised. Bob Kraft, he owns the New England Patriots. Good guy. Does very well. Good guy. He does a great job. He was at the White House recently. He gave me a Super Bowl ring. I was very honored. I was very honored. And as he's leaving the White House, he said, Donald, I know you're very soon going to be doing tax reform and tax cuts. Give it to the middle class. Don't give it to us. Give it to the middle class. And that's what we're trying so hard to do. And you will see how good this is. So important. It is so important. The second plank of our tax framework is to make the tax code more simple, fair, and easy to understand. American families and businesses waste billions of hours and tens of billions of dollars on excruciating paperwork. You see that? I mean, it's all over the place. And you have no idea what you're doing anyway. And compliance every single year. Massive numbers of paper. Under our framework, the vast majority of families will be able to file their taxes on that same single sheet of paper that I'm so proud of talking about. As part of the effort to make our tax system simple and fair, we are going to protect thousands of family businesses by ending the crushing, horrible, and unfair estate tax, sometimes known as the death tax. That's a tax that has destroyed so many businesses and kept those businesses out of your family, your children, your grandchildren. It's very sad. But we are working to end the estate tax, to end the death tax, as it's often called. In the crowd today, we have Calvin Ewell and his son, Steve. Calvin, where's Calvin? Where is Calvin? Oh, good-looking family. The Ewells have been a trucking business and in the trucking business since 1946. A very good year. It's a great year. I love that year. Trucking runs in their blood, and Calvin wants to pass his company along to his children, just as it was passed down to him by his father. We're going to protect small business owners and their families so they can continue to run their companies with dedication and with love. And we will make taxes simple and easy and fair for all Americans. Thank you, Calvin. Calvin, you want to hand that business down, right? But, you know, don't worry about it for about 40 years, I hope, okay? 4-0, long time, right? Let's keep him around. Thank you, Calvin.